It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Many of you have asked me to give my thoughts on the outcome of the recent fight in the UFC between Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. If you haven't seen it, major spoilers in this video. You've been warned, Conor lost. And it shocked a lot of people because he had previously beaten Dustin Poirier before. In fact, he even called that fight. What was it? He said he would beat him within 60 seconds. It turned out to be more like 90 seconds, but he won that fight. Now, we've seen Conor lose before, but most of the time he's the guy with his hand raised at the end. Conor has this interesting habit of calling the shots before the fights. I'm going to win this way, in this round, in approximately this much time, and he's proven himself right many times. He's the classical heel, or at least he has been before this fight, where he plays it up, where he talks trash, where he talks smack, where he gets everybody emotionally invested in the fight before it happens, to sell those pay-per-view events. But this one was different. Radically different. Many of us were shocked and surprised not just to see Conor lose ex post facto, but before the fight, to see Conor go in a seemingly different human being with a certain humility about him. He wasn't talking trash. He was being extremely respectful to his opponent. In fact, at one point during the pre-fight shenanigans, Dustin Poirier, in response to Conor McGregor's gracious comment, said, I don't want this to seem like we're giving each other back massages here, but, and then he gave Conor a compliment back. So very uncharacteristic of what we had previously seen. Why? I have a lot of thoughts about this. Where to begin? Technical? Color commentary? If you don't know this already, one of my jobs that I work professionally is fight commentary. I do ringside commentary for shows such as Kunlun Fight here in the People's Republic of China. If you're not familiar with Kunlun Fight, that's where Zhang Weili got her start before she went on to the UFC. They do mostly kickboxing, but occasionally they do MMA events or a single MMA show during a mostly kickboxing event. And generally they have two Chinese fight commentators and one English language commentator. Me. And when you have two fight commentators, I think it's much easier because you get to play off each other. You get to riff off each other. One guy can do the technical commentary, basically call the play-by-plays like they used to back in old-timey radio show days before television, when they would call boxing matches and the folks would listen at home. He threw a jab, he landed a right cross, he bobbed, he weaved, he zigged, he zagged, all that stuff. Trying to paint the picture of what is happening. But then there's the color commentator. And his job is to spin a narrative, to tell a story, to make you care. Because if you don't care, if there's no narrative, it's just a couple of monkeys inside a cage, beating on each other. And who cares about that, right? So being a fight commentator, especially for kickboxing, I find is fascinating because you have to come up with so many different ways to say, he punched him, he kicked him, he punched him back, he kicked him back. Oh, now they're clinching. The referee separated them. And you got to make that interesting. You have to turn that into a compelling narrative that people actually want to sit through for more than an hour and watch over and over again. As a bunch of different athletes get up there and they do the monkey dance inside the ring or inside the cage. Conor McGregor has proven to be an expert not just at hand-to-hand combat inside the octagon, but at spinning narratives. Generally, he's the classical heel who shows up to those weigh-ins and those pre-fight interviews and those press conferences as this larger-than-life, over-the-top character who is talking trash and saying all the smack to his opponent and making people emotionally invested in those fights so that they buy those tickets, so they buy those pay-per-views. Whether you love him or love to hate him, he's made you emotionally invested in him. And this fight was different, again. Why? They were so polite. They were so kind. They were so gracious. They were so humble. Was it Khabib who said he would make Conor humble? Well, maybe he succeeded. But let's spin a narrative around this one. A number of years ago, how long was it? 6 years ago? I don't remember. When Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor faced off the first time. And Conor predicted that he would beat Dustin within 60 seconds of the first round. It turned out to be, what, more like 90 seconds? But still, fairly accurate prediction. And this was not a one-time thing. Conor's done it many times. Many times. They even called him Mystic Mac. He's calling the shots like a pool player, calling which ball is going to go into which hole and when. With a certain level of accuracy that's almost eerie. I'm going to knock him out with my left inside of this much time in this round. And to do that more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times, it makes you start to wonder, does this man actually have a superpower? Has he breached space-time in his mind in so much that he can actually see the future? And if so, if Conor McGregor actually has this strange and bizarre power to know the outcome of his fights before he gets into them, then how would a man with such an ability portray himself during the pre-fight business of a fight where he knows he is going down? Particularly against a respected and respectable and honorable fighter such as Dustin Poirier. What am I doing for you here? I'm spinning a narrative. Do I believe that Conor has superpowers? It's fun to think so, right? Narratives are powerful things. They suck you in a little bit. And that's one thing this last fight was kind of missing, was that narrative to suck you in. Other than the fact that we have this guy who's essentially a multi-millionaire with more money than Dana White, as he pointed out in the pre-fight press conferences, or was it post? I don't remember. It's all going together at this point in my mind. But I thought it was interesting how during the pre-fight press conferences they were asking questions, and the folks in the audience were essentially taking it as a given that Conor was essentially done with the UFC. He's there doing them a favor just by showing up. And instead, Conor said essentially, look, the money, the success, the belts, all this stuff, that's not what matters to me. I actually love doing this. I actually love to compete. I actually want to have a highlight reel that's so amazing that it's like a movie that I can show my son afterward. And he's telling a different type of story. He's spinning a different type of narrative than the one we've usually heard. The squeaky wheel trying to get the grease, you know. The loud, obnoxious guy trying to get the attention so that we watch him. Instead, this time, it's the guy looking for a legacy. And he certainly got an impressive highlight reel of knocking people out in the cage, of doing some fancy kicks, and fantastic movements in the martial arts. And he also has a highlight reel of smack talk and people saying, I hate this guy and I want him to get knocked out, I want him to lose. But we see right now a narrative being spun of a man concerned about his legacy. And what does a man concerned about his legacy want? Wants to be remembered positively, I suppose. And the heels generally aren't remembered positively, and perhaps that is coming back to bite him in the butt a little bit. Let's talk about the fight. Let's talk about what happened technically. Dustin went out there, got a takedown fairly early, made Conor work to get back up, which I believe was a very smart move because, man, fresh out of the gate, Conor's got that touch of death. We all know that, fresh out of the gate. That man's got power in those strikes. They're crisp, they're clean, they're shocking. And they've laid out a lot of powerful men in the octagon. You want to take the power out of the strikes, you want to take the bite out of the punches, what do? You grapple a guy a little bit. You make him carry your weight. Conor gets back up. They clinch. Dustin manages to get his opponent's back up against the cage, put so much pressure on Conor, so much weight on Conor, that for the rest of the fight you can see the impressions of the chain link pressed into the back, into the skin of Conor McGregor. That's how much pressure was on that man. And what is Dustin doing? He's wearing out those arms. He's wearing out that pop, that punch, that explosion that Conor carries, making the man a little bit less dangerous. I had a coach from Thailand, a Muay Thai coach, and this guy was an exceptional Muay Thai fighter, former Lumpini Boxing Stadium champion. And when I started training with him, the first thing he would have me do every day was clinch sparring, just 10 minutes of clinch sparring. And the first time I did that, oh boy, I was tired. I had fought professionally in multiple combat sports, including Muay Thai, but I had never done 10 minutes straight of clinch sparring. You know, just pummeling for the grips, finding positions where you can land the strikes, even just going very, very light with the strikes, just touch, just tag, but putting weight on the other guy, moving him around, tiring him out, seeing if you can unbalance him, creating openings for shots, seeing if you can sweep or trip. And I found it to be exhausting. And I remember after about 9 minutes, I found myself needing to quit, and my coach laughs at me. And this man from Thailand with a big smile on his face, my friend Rock Chanan Sinsob, he says to me, in Thailand, children do this drill for 30 minutes every day as a warm-up. Silly foreigners. And, ooh, man, that had me reevaluating my fitness to fight. Because never in a fight had I had somebody lay that type of pressure on me, that type of clinching pressure on me. And what I learned from that experience is that clinching has many purposes, one of which to negate strikes. If you tie up with someone, he does not have the space to get that big Conor McGregor style straight left hand down the center on you. But furthermore, it puts your weight on him. Now he's carrying his weight and he's carrying your weight, and that's wearing him out. And that's exactly what we saw Dustin do up against the cage. And I was watching this thinking, smart. I wonder if he knows what he's doing. I wonder if he had that game plan going in to clinch up early, to put his weight on him early. If not, man, brilliant stroke of genius in the cage right there, because what did we see afterward? We saw Conor still trying to implement his striking game plan, trying to get that clean knockout, that touch of death going on there, but it didn't have that same sting afterward. He landed some of those shots on Dustin, clean and square, but not with the same amount of pop that we see when he knocks fools out, cold, dead on the canvas. Dustin was able to take those. A heated exchange happened. Dustin went in for the kill, both men playing a high-risk, high-reward game, and Dustin got the reward. He threw a combination up high. Conor began to come down low. Maybe he was thinking, shoot for a takedown and avoid the strikes. I don't know, because pop, that low hook landed right before anything significant came of it, and down went Conor. In came the referee waving it off. And that was it, all over. So technically, that's what happened. And then afterward, some interesting exchanges of words, some pleasantries. Both men met backstage. Conor congratulated his victorious opponent. All class, nothing but. Dustin said back to Conor, "Your coach was right. Your coach was right." I presume he was speaking of Conor's coach, saying something along the lines of Dustin Poirier having been shaken or experiencing some sort of post-traumatic stress because of his loss to Conor. And who wouldn't? You get laid out flat by a guy early on. Ooh, that's rough, man. That stays with you. You get injured by someone, that stays with you. You got to work past that. So Dustin says, "Your coach was right, but I forgave myself." Fighters are their own worst critics. Not to say they don't get criticism. They do, man. They get so much criticism. Everybody thinks they know better than the man in the cage who just lost a fight. Everybody thinks they could have done it better. But they sure as hell won't get in there and try. And I imagine Dustin heard everybody tell him what he did wrong, what he should have done instead. Just like everybody's telling Conor what he did wrong and what he should have done instead. Right now, it's a fight, man. You have two world-class guys going at it. One of them is going to win. One of them is going to lose. Either of them could do it on any given day. This was one of those fights. This was one of those moments. But how interesting that Dustin said, "I forgave myself." Nobody takes a loss as hard as the guy who lost. Every day I look at my YouTube comments, and I retired from professional fighting many years ago. But every day I get some little smart aleck in the comments telling me, "Oh, you lost this fight. You lost that fight. You suck because of this. You suck because of that, because you lost way back when. Over a decade ago, you lost this fight 15 years ago, so you suck." And to those folks I would say, don't you think I've already been through that? Don't you think I already worked through that? Don't you think I already worked past that? Do you think I remained the same person I was 15, 12, 10 years ago, or even yesterday? If you're the same guy you were yesterday, you've wasted your time, let alone a decade ago. You're not even the same guy on the molecular level. Not a cell in your body is the same as it was 10 years ago. Time to forgive yourselves and move on. Man, what a powerful message that was. The fight was fun, the fight was interesting, the fight was dynamic. We saw all ranges of combat happening, striking, grappling up against the fence, on the ground, takedowns, get-ups. It was a fun fight to watch. It was exactly what both men said they wanted to see in the pre-fight interviews, an exciting, compelling fight. And we got it. And Conor said to Dustin, "Let's do it again." Some people are excited about the rubber match. Conor won one, Dustin won one. Now they're gonna have that rubber match. How much do I care about that? Meh. If it happens, cool. If it doesn't, I won't be heartbroken. It's interesting that as a combat sports coach, as a fight commentator, working in the profession of combat sports, I'm always asked by everybody around me, hey Ramsey, did you see this UFC fight? Did you see that UFC fight? And the fact of the matter is, I don't watch all the UFC events. I don't. I like to keep up with, the big events that everybody's talking about, because, man, fights like this, of course, people want to hear my opinion about them. But yeah, man, there are just so many going on top of what I'm already doing, and so many other shows that I'm involved with as well. Man, there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. But a narrative, man, that's a powerful thing. That's how humans communicate, down to the smallest part of speech, a morpheme, the tiniest bit of a word that has meaning. Every little bit of speech has a story behind it, has a narrative. If not, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't click with our intelligence. We think we communicate in talking points, in data, in information. No. We convey data, we convey information. Did I pluralize information? We convey that through stories. Somebody commented on one of my recent videos where I said the word vitamin. Vitamin! And they said, Ramsey, you say vitamin with British pronunciation. Is that because you've lived in Shanghai for so long? No, it's because I'm British. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm a UK-US dual national. I was born in the United States. My family's from England. And that has a lot to do with why I got into martial arts in the first place. Here's a story, here's a narrative I'm telling you. A little backstory. Maybe you know it if you watch this channel a lot, maybe you don't. But when you live in small-town America, in a small farming town with a bunch of cowboys, with a hometown dialect, and you say vitamin, that's enough to get you beaten up in certain parts of the world, including where I grew up. Man. You say tuna fish instead of tuna fish. Opportunity or Tuesday instead of opportunity or Tuesday. Schedule instead of schedule. Things like that. Say blacklock instead of cockroach. All these other dialects of Northern England, and a place of the world so far removed from Northern England that it just doesn't make sense to anybody. They want to know what's the story behind that. Why do you talk funny, kid? So I got beaten up a lot, which gave me a vested interest in learning how not to get beaten up, how to solve the problem of violence with violence. And most of us, as we grow up, the school bullies stop picking on us because they grow up as well. And if they keep picking on us, they go to jail as adults. But, yeah, man, people still want to know, why do you do martial arts? And that reason, because kids picked on me when I was little, doesn't really make sense right now, as a 42-year-old man. Why do I still do it? Why am I so fascinated by it? What's the narrative there? What's yours? See, we're so fascinated by narratives. That's why, man, just search this topic on any even moderately popular YouTube channel where somebody's discussing this fight, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. And it's got a bunch of views from a bunch of people who want to hear a unique story spun around this event. What's your take on it? I mean, we saw the fight. We saw the fight from multiple angles. We saw the playback. We don't care about the technique. We think we do. We think we want to know, oh, he dipped this way, he threw his punch that way, he stepped that way, he shifted his weight this way. He did this when he should have done that. Yeah, but no. We want the story. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train. Hey fella, looks like you could use a rash guard. What for, you say? Well, they protect your skin against mat-borne illnesses, mat burn, and they make you look incredibly cool. But where do I get a rash guard from? Hey, have you heard of xmartial.com? Yeah? Then what are you waiting for? Check them out right now. xmartial.com has all kinds of rash guards, from sleek and simple, novelty, badass designs, and more. Channel your inner Japanese cartoon rat monster. Express your love for bad puns and kitty cats doing iconic jujitsu moves. Hey, that panda's gonna hit the other panda with a folding chair like a pro wrestler. And this one makes your right arm stand out. NoGiBJJGear.com is now xmartial.com, serving your needs beyond just no-gi Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, find brand new equipment for mixed martial arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, and more at xmartial.com. As always, use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything on the website. Once again, that's xmartial.com. Rash guards, spats, shorts, and more. Links and discount codes in the description below.